Straight to the top story at this hour. A day after the Lok Sabha cleared the bill to provide 10% reservation to economically weaker sections, the centre has tabled the bill in the Rajya Sabha. The debate over the bill is currently underway in the upper house, and several opposition leaders have questioned the timing of the government's move. Countering the opposition's charge, the BJP members have said that Prime Minister Modi is fulfilling a promise made in every party's manifesto. Take a look.
जिस दीप को बहुत पहले जलना था, उस दिए को अगर नरेंद्र मोदी ने जलाया है, प्रज्वलित किया है, तो उसके आलोक में, उसके उजाले में भारत के युवाओं को आने दीजिए। मैं समझता हूं, मेरी इस भावना को आप सभी लोग समझ गए होंगे। जय हिंद, जय भारत।
हमारे दल ने इसके पक्षधर हैं। हमने ये बात उठाई थी। हम सामाजिक न्याय में और खास तौर पे जो अग्रिम जाति के भी गरीब लोग हैं, उनको सही माने में न्याय मिले, एक कदम उसकी तरफ है। ये रास्ता बहुत लंबा है, चुनौती कड़ी है, उस पे राजनीतिक मजबूरी से नहीं, प्रतिबद्धता से काम होना चाहिए।
जब 50% के बैरियर को आपने तोड़ ही दिया है, तो जब ओबीसी के लिए 27% आरक्षण हुआ था, उस वक्त इसी को ध्यान में रखकर कि 22.5% SC ST का है और 50% को ऊपर न निकल जाए तो उनकी आबादी के आधे के बराबर उन्हें आरक्षण दिया गया था, 27%। आज मैं आपके माध्यम से सरकार से मांग करता हूं कि इस देश के ओबीसीज को 54% आरक्षण दिया जाए उनकी आबादी के हिसाब से।
This 10% is without data, without quantifiable data. It is in violation of basic structure of the Constitution. Our Parliament lacks legislative competency because it never gives the power to the Parliament to enact law to provide this kind of 10% reservation. The people of Tamil Nadu will be affected because of this proposed constitutional amendment. We are staging walkout at this stage.
Yes. We are staging a walkout.
If the jobs are zero currently, and you say 10% of zero, 10% of zero is zero. But I want to end, sir, on an optimistic note, because coming soon is a coalition government that may have a common minimum program. Right now, we have a single party government with a confused maximum program.
Moving on to all the action from Dalal Strait, where markets started the day off strong but stumbled a little bit at lunch, but then saw a sharp recovery in the last hour of trade. The Nifty reclaimed that 10,850 mark, led by gains of 0.5%. The Sensex too reclaimed 36,000. The Bank Nifty saw wild swings post-lunch, but settled with gains of 0.75%. The mid-caps, however, sulked in trade yet again, with that index ending flat with a slight negative bias. Top officials from the Reserve Bank of India, including the newly appointed Governor Shaktikanta Das, today met with NBF Seas as part of the consultative meetings lined up with the financial services industry. Sources tell CNBCTV18 that issues surrounding liquidity constraints was the dominant theme at this meeting, attended by heads of 13 NBF Seas. Ritu Singh, who has been tracking that meeting, joins us now with what transpired. Ritu, what else was discussed at this meeting?
After meeting heads of public banks, private banks, MSMEs, the Reserve Bank of India officials with its new governor, Shaktikanta Das, met with representatives of non-banking financial companies, and we understand about 12 to 13 large NBFCs were part of this meeting. We understand from sources that the dominant theme for discussion today was the issue surrounding liquidity in the NBFC sector and also some of the regulatory changes that have been sought by the NBFCs present in the meeting today. One, of course, is, the industry felt that there was a lot of negative sentiment created about NBFCs in the wake of the IL&FS crisis, whereas they believe there's not really any solvency issue with the rest of the industry and everybody must not be painted with the same brush. They have sought RBI support to open more avenues for capital raising when it comes to the NBFCs. Specifically, small and mid-sized NBFCs, according to the demands put forward by the industry today, they said must be allowed refinancing options from Mudra. Also, the creation of of an official platform through which NBF Seas can interact with bodies like the Reserve Bank of India, something along the lines of the IBA for the banks also. In addition, there were securitization guidelines that were taken up. There was also a demand made by some NBFCs that RBI allow, NBFCs with assets of over 1,000 crore rupees to allow taking deposits from the public. But largely, it was a freewheeling discussion with no real agenda. But yes, as always, we got the feedback that the Reserve Bank of India had a willing ear to listen to all of these issues that are faced by the industry.
Absolutely, Ritu. So NBFCs, they're highlighting their liquidity concerns. But Ritu, let's also talk about the other meeting that you've been tracking. Banks meeting officials of cash-strapped Jet Airways about the airline's turnaround plan. So what's the latest on that front?
That's right. Officials from Jet Airways and its partner Etihad Airways met with State Bank of India officials. Remember, SBI is the lead banker in the consortium to Jet Airways to discuss the turnaround plan for the company. We're given to understand that in the meeting, SBI made it very clear in no uncertain terms that no fresh loans would be granted to Jet Airways until the results of EY's forensic audit on Jet's book is completed. In addition, we understand, given that Jet defaulted on the 1st of January, the RBI Feb 12 circular kicks in, which means in 180 days, lenders will have to finalize the resolution plan, failing which the company would be headed into bankruptcy. So under this, they're working on a financial restructuring where a portion of the debt would be converted into equity, which means banks will end up holding stake in Jet Airways. In addition, they've also sought that Naresh Goyal, along with Etihad, bring in fresh capital into the company. And therefore, this restructuring, once implemented, would result in Naresh Goyal losing, majority control in Jet Airways. It has been made very clear that, bankers do not really want the current management with Naresh Goyal at the helm to continue, but a compromise has been reached, and we understand that they are agreeable to his son, Nivan Goyal, continuing in his board position. Of course, the stakeholding would be reduced significantly from 51% to under 20% once the restructuring is completed. Do remember, there's almost 1,700 crore rupees of repayment due between now and March for Jet Airways, and to ease that, if the restructuring proposal is cleared by all of the lenders, it is possible that Jet Airways may also be granted moratorium during this period.
Diary, on to the big story that we're tracking for you at this hour. Opposition leader Mallikarjun Kharge has told Network 18 that the much-anticipated meeting to decide the fate of CBI Chief Alok Verma would be held later tonight. Remember, just yesterday, the Supreme Court, while reinstating Verma as the CBI director, had barred him from taking any major policy decisions until the selection panel, which comprises of the Prime Minister, opposition leaders and the Chief Justice, decide on his status. Parikshit Luthra joins us now with the latest. Parikshit, what are you picking up?
Well, we're hearing that the meeting is scheduled for 8 p.m. this evening, and top sources in the government are telling us that the meeting is taking place as scheduled. There is no delay. It is correct that Mallikarjun Kharge had written a letter to the Prime Minister stating that he needs 2 days to study all the documents because the draft for this meeting only was received last evening. He wants to study this entire matter in detail before coming up with a view. But we're now hearing that the meeting is taking place as scheduled. The Congress is of the opinion, and sources in the Congress party telling us that Alok Verma should be reinstated with all powers. 20 days are left in his tenure, and he should be given all powers because none of the charges against him have been proved. Justice Sikri will be participating in the meeting on behalf of the Chief Justice because the Chief Justice recused himself, stating that he was a part of the bench which had given an order in the battle versus the two senior-most officers in the CBI.
All right, Parikshit. So that crucial meeting they're happening today at 8 p.m. So we'll have to wait and see what comes out of that. Thank you so much for those details. Moving on. Farmer issues have been a key talking point in the build-up to the 2019 general elections, with both the BJP and opposition parties trying their best to woo the farmers. Earlier today, Lata Venkatesh caught up with Abhijit Banerjee, Professor of Economics at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, to get his sense on what are the best ways to ask for his opinion on how the government can help the farmers in the best possible way. Take a look.
What we've done with the price support is we've kind of gone the opposite direction. I think in the sense that we've banned exports, we have imported when we had large surpluses. So we've moved the terms of trade against agriculture quite kind of with a clear and I think rather committed hand. So I think that if you look at what happened to the farmers, if we just let world market prices be the prices that rule, they would have not, the distress wouldn't have been there, or most of it wouldn't have been there. I think so. I do feel, given that we have some obligation to do something about them. And the question is a bit, what's the fairest thing to do? The problem, so I think the advantage of loan waivers is that we know how to do it. At some level, they're straightforward to implement. The disadvantage is also more or less the same thing, which is we know how to do it because we know who the people with loans are. But I do think that there is a real issue there of, how much can we afford if it's universal? And I think the government's other initiative was trying to deal with that. That was the Fasal Bima Yojana. Yes. So one thing the government could have done instead of any of these is just implemented that better. That was very badly implemented. It hasn't really reached people. And part of the reason was that it was designed in a way that was completely ham-handed, and that particular opportunity was lost. So another thing the government could have done, aside from these three options, is to just implement that better.
Wear your economist hat and explain to us the macro problems that this will create. I mean, whether it is a universal income or loan waivers, both create macro problems. So let me first start with the fiscal deficit. Will not that be counterproductive if we were to overspend? And, inflation or higher interest rates would kill what we get by way of income.
I think the only way to really pay for something like a universal basic income would be right now to start thinking of what schemes to cut. I mean, in the medium run, I think we are undertaxed. We really, despite whatever the financial sector will tell you, we have year after year, we have kind of let the slab drift up so that we've never really had more than 2.5% of the population in the tax net. And then there is all kinds of other, people don't pay the taxes, etc. But I think we have done very little on sort of generating a good, effective, progressive, direct taxation.
The CNBCTV18 Exclusive, the GST Council is set to meet tomorrow, and we learned from sources that at its 32nd meeting, the Council will focus on revenue mobilization. Sources say that the Council may consider a special report prepared by the group of ministers on mobilizing revenue. Timsi Jaipuria is here with the details. Timsi, what are you picking up?
Well, as you rightly mentioned, the Revenue Mobilization GOM has submitted its report, and this special report will be considered by the GST Council on January 10th, that is tomorrow when they meet. Now, if you see the analysis that government data shows right now, it shows that the revenue shortfall during the period of April to December has slipped back again to 13%. This number had recovered to 10% during the period of April to November, but yes, after the dismal performance of November figures which were recorded in December, the figure has again slipped back to 13%. Now, if you see the overall moving of states, how states are performing, the worst performing states and union territories continue to be Pondicherry with a revenue shortfall of about 42%. Now, this again becomes a major concern because a lot of states and union territories are below 20% of a revenue shortfall. And remember, government has said that they would be compensating states, that too at an annual growth of 14%. That means 42% negative will be first given as a compensation, and then a 14% growth also will be given out as a compensation. So it becomes heavy on government's pocket to compensate such states such as Pondicherry, Punjab, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Jammu and Kashmir. Even Delhi has again slipped back to about 20% of a revenue shortfall, which was earlier seen as to be one of the good performing states with almost a revenue gain. So if you see all this math across India, out of 31 states and union territories, only 5 of them continue to remain in good healthy figures, and rest all are under a good shortfall figure. So let's see what is the final move that government takes tomorrow when they consider this special report. Back to you.
Absolutely, Tinsy. Thank you so much for those details. And from one exclusive to another, e-commerce giant Amazon has been hit by a data breach in India. CNBCTV18 learns that the company faced a technical glitch which led to a data breach of sellers' business records on the platform. Mugdha Warrior is standing by with the exclusive details. Mugdha, tell us about the scale of this data breach and also tell us, has it been corrected?
Yes, this problem came to light on Tuesday morning when several sellers logged onto Amazon's platform to download their monthly sales reports. These monthly sales reports, also known as merchant tax reports, are usually downloaded by these sellers between the 8th and the 10th of every month in order to file their GST returns. Now, some of the sellers I spoke to said that the reports they downloaded this time carried incorrect data as well as data of other merchants on the platform. So this is what has raised concern among sellers that their own business data could have been exposed to other merchants as well. Now, these merchant tax reports mainly carry sensitive business data of these vendors on the platform, including their orders processed, the sale volumes across categories, as well as the inventory. The scale of the data breach is not clear, but Amazon has over 4 lakh sellers on its platform across the country. When contacted, Amazon India said that the problem had been identified on Tuesday and that it was a technical issue which had been rectified within a few hours. And Amazon now says that the sellers now have access to the correct merchant tax reports. Back to you.
All right, Mugdha, thank you so much for those details. Now, Apple CEO Tim Cook feels that the trade tensions between America and China are a temporary phenomenon and that it was in the interest of both nations to reach an agreement. Cook was speaking to CNBC's Jim Cramer days after the tech giants slashed their first quarter revenue guidance, primarily on the back of weak iPhone sales in China. Cook, however, remains optimistic about improving trade ties between USA and China. Take a look.
Issues are all occurring at the same time that we do have China. You were very abject about China and the 100% of what we didn't think of the upside that went away. There are issues involving perhaps not boycotts, we know that's off the table, but patriotism in a strange way, meaning that, you know what, if I can get a Huawei with a subsidy, why should I buy an Apple? It's conspicuously American. How long can that last?
Well, I think here's what we saw in China specifically. The Chinese economy, it seemed to us, began to slow maybe in the second half of the year, and it was on some sort of rational trajectory. We believe, based on what we saw on the timing of it, that the tension, the trade war tension with the U.S. created this more sharp downturn. I believe that's temporary because I think that when you really look at it, it's in both countries' best interest to come to an agreement. It is a complex, very complex trade agreement, and it needs to be updated. But as I've said before, I'm very optimistic that this will happen. And so that clearly will be good, not only for us, frankly, but I think more about the world in general. The world needs a strong U.S. and China economy for the world economy to be strong.
With that, it is a wrap on this edition of Reporter's Diary. Many thanks for watching.